Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Medicare Mondays with Ruthlyn and I. We're excited to have you all joining us again. It's been an exciting 3 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, we've been learning a lot about Medicare and Medicare enrollment. And Medicare, understanding Medicare generally. I know we are streaming on the Hills Academy YouTube. We are streaming on the Hills Academy LinkedIn. We also are streaming it
Health with Solutions.
on Health with Solutions. And guess what? Today, too, I reached out to one of my friends who is also called the Otaiwo channel, and he's also streaming it on his channel. So if you are joining us from anywhere, either on YouTube, or on Facebook, or anywhere that you are joining us, we're excited that you are joining us today to learn more about Medicare enrollment. Um, for the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at the first week. We looked at the Medicare pathways, and I like to repeat these things because it helped me get it, and it also helped to know that we are learning. And I know repetition deepens impression. So if you're joining us in everywhere, you want to reach out to a friend, you want to reach out to a family who may need this, who may want to understand Medicare, or maybe helping somebody else in understanding Medicare and making choice, or even for your own good. Like, you may not be 65 or disabled and eligible for Medicare, but guess what? You learn these things to prepare yourself to be ready by the time you get there. And that is the purpose of what we are doing. And we're excited to have you here. We know you could have done so many things with your hour, but you chose to be here with us on Medicare Mondays. And we appreciate you for being here. And we appreciate you for spending the hour with us. So today we want to go on the Medicare annual enrollment period, the AEP. If you were here with us last week, you probably know what this is, and we're gonna go deeper. So I will introduce myself. My name is Prince Barwuah, and I am the founder and the chief tutor of the Hughes Academy, and we are here to help simplify the health system as much as possible for people to make decisions on their care or understanding and navigating the health system. And we have here Ruthlyn Noel, and I'll pass it on to Ruthlyn to introduce herself and also Health West together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're looking forward to having a great program today. My name is Ruthlyn Noel Joseph. My company is called Health with Solutions, and we are problem solvers. Simply put, right? We help individuals to navigate health insurance and to make sure that they're having access to the care and treatment that they need, that they're able to, um, find a doctors, pharmacies, and just make sure that if you do have Medicare, how do you make it work the right way for you? So that's what we're about. We're about providing information, providing education, and hand holding our clients through the process so you never have to worry about accessing your coverage.
Thank you so much, Ruthlyn. And we always appreciate you. It's always exciting to learn from you and to learn with you with the knowledge that you have. I have learned a lot. And please, if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked, do all of that because it helps us and it helps the message around. So on Health with Solutions Facebook page, YouTube pages, and also on the website, there are a lot of good information on the website, and also on the Hughes Academy website, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you are watching us from. You may please quickly get yourself there to subscribe, to like, to share, and we appreciate all of them. So we'll be diving into today's, and today we are going through the Medicare annual enrollment period, as I said before. And I will do just a quick review. In learning, the reviews are very important. So just a quick review from what we have learned over the past weeks. So on week number one, we did the Medicare pathways, right? We did the traditional Medicare pathway, the Medicare Advantage pathway, and also looked at some of the Medicare parts which fall into these pathways. So if you haven't watched that, please check out the YouTube video. It's very awesome. So please check it out. Um, Week number two, we did the enrollment periods. And if you were here last week, we talked about initial enrollment period, Medicare supplement, open enrollment period, general enrollment period, special enrollment period, annual enrollment, open enrollment period. Like if somebody's talking and said, oh, Medicare enrollment period. A quick question you want to ask the person to verify is, which one are you talking about? Like, which of the enrollment periods are you talking about so that the person can explain? If the person cannot explain, simply you want to share this video with them from last week so that the person can better learn and understand to be a pro in on the enrollment periods. So we did that last week, which was exciting, and we took the entire hour, which went so by quickly. This week, we are learning about the annual enrollment period. We are only taking the annual enrollment period because we are in there. Guess what? We're already there. So, how do I understand and navigate and take advantage of the AEP, the annual enrollment period? That is what we want to cover. We'll be covering today. So have your questions ready and we will navigate through that. And Ruthlyn is here to share with us how best we can take advantage and navigate through the annual enrollment period for today, for this year. The opportunity, and if you've been here with us, we go through some of the opportunities, why, and it gives us the why we are doing what we are doing, and it gives a core foundation. And this is from an article that I read, and I was going to pull it out, but I have it referenced here. And it says, look before you leap. Look before you leap. And it was written in the Medicare advocacy organization. And I would just go through some of these research, but it goes through a lot of things that talks about the annual enrollment period. And in the conclusion, it says here, which I copied and pasted here as a quote for us to just read through it, and then that I'll pass on to Ruthlyn because I didn't want to go through a lot of opportunities because we have a lot of things to cover today. So the conclusion, look before you leap. It says the annual advertising onslaught for 2024 Medicare products is about to saturate TV and radio airwaves and household mailboxes and subject people to unsolicited and often inappropriate in-person and phone solicitations from those who sell such products. Such advertising almost always paints MA in the light of most favorable and omits critical considerations and downsides of MA enrollment. And it goes through like some of these, like either fee for service pathway or MA pathway, which we've learned. And we learned from last 2 weeks that it's dependent. All of them, they're all different products, different coverages for different people for different needs. So you have to understand which pathway works best for you and choose, because we all probably, Ruslan, you drive a different car, I drive a different car. We all know through like what cars or type that work for us. So the same way all these products and services and coverages are different for different people. But you want to understand the Center for Medical Advocacy is hopeful, which is where the article came from, and it tries to put together several articles from the Kaiser Family Foundation and other things together, and it talks about that the Center for Medical Advocacy is hopeful that a new marketing rules will reduce misleading advertising and foster more informed decision making, which is one of the things we want to talk about. Informed decision making, either pathway that you choose, what is the one that best work best for you and your family. But the rules efficacy will come down to plan compliance, CMS oversight. Perennial advice to Medicare beneficiaries navigating Medicare coverage options is look before you leap. What we are here to do is to help you, give you some eyes so that you are able to look as you leap to make the right decision that works for you. Either pathways, we appreciate it. And in light of that and many, many things, we have so many other questions that are here. I will pass it on to Ruthlyn to take us through the annual enrollment period. Maybe I think one thing, I think this is from last week, which we
Mhm.
talked to Ruthlyn, explained the annual enrollment period. And I'll pass it on to Ruthlyn, maybe explain much more for us on the annual enrollment period. Recap from last week, what do we have this week, and then you can take us on from there. So, Ruthlyn, I'll pass it on to you.
Excellent, excellent. So, yes, AEP is here. It started yesterday, October 15th, and it runs until December 7th. It's the most, I would say, active time for Medicare because so much is going on during this time frame. But think of the AEP as, remember what we spoke about last week in knowing your annual enrollment cycles. When could you make changes to your plans that you have? And not fall prey to the victim of having being stuck in a plan, because if you understand the enrollment, the different enrollment periods, then you know how to navigate Medicare well. So with the annual enrollment, this is about flexibility. Some people call this Medicare open enrollment period. Notice it's the Medicare open enrollment. Some people call it annual elections period. They're all the same thing. In that, it's a time to make changes to your plan. You're going to reevaluate the type of coverage that you have right now if you have Medicare, and make decisions about what, as you go into 2024, whether or not what you have right now is working for you, or whether or not you could make some changes, go on to something else. If you have original Medicare, that's your Part A and Part B, with a Medicare supplement, and maybe financially that's no longer affordable for you, maybe you might think about going to Medicare Advantage, which is your Part C plan. Or if you have Part C, um, and you find some of the costs and whatever is going on does not work for you because maybe you have more health challenges, could you go back to original Medicare? So it's about reevaluating what you have. The key here being that you have to already be on Medicare, right?
Okay. Sorry, well, you finish up and then
I,
I'll
well, that's where I was going to end before we move on. But the
before we
key
move
here for the annual enrollment period, it's that this is an enrollment period for individuals who already have Medicare, and so what you're doing is just making changes.
Okay, so it has to be someone who already has Medicare and then making change. So in
Correct.
this, the change can be within your Medicare Advantage,
Correct.
because that's where the pathway that you are still gonna be in, or even across
Across of all
whole,
of Medicare,
whole
right?
pathway. Okay, okay, okay. So this is like the change period, the change time. Yeah.
Right. Consider this your freebie, right? The once a year where no one is going to ask questions. The carriers are not going to ask questions. They're going to accept you,
Okay, okay,
right?
okay. So, and this is, I'm saying it, people who already have Medicare. But if it's your first time, then we learned from last week, last week, that then this will be your initial enrollment period, right?
If this is your first time, if you're coming in October, November, December, and you're turning 65, or you're just retiring from a job and coming into Medicare for the first time, this will not be your annual enrollment. What you will be using to come in is what's called your initial enrollment period.
I'm so glad by myself that I really remembered this. I'm learning a lot. All right. So, Ruthland, as the article went on and per what we are learning, what
Mhm.
are today's goal is to be better understand what should I expect and how do I take advantage, the most
Right,
advantage of this time. It's like a couple of October, November, December,
right.
this time as much as possible. So,
Mhm.
what are some things that, and I have some slides here, but there you talked about some of the articles that you wrote on your website, which is I'll recommend people reading and going through. But I'll pass it on, Ruthland, if you don't
Right.
mind taking us through some of them.
Absolutely. So one of the things that every single person who has Medicare gets, especially if they have a Part D drug plan or they have a Medicare Part C plan, is that every year they get what's called an annual notice of change. It's a letter. It comes from the carrier that you have. So I won't name carriers, but you could think of a health insurance company, or the plan, the name of the plan on your Medicare card, on your Medicare card, and they will tell you about the changes that's going to happen for 24 or the next year, right? So, for example, whether or not that plan is going to increase the premium. They're going to tell you that in what that annual notice of change. So premiums are included in there. So premium increases, whether it's going up or down. Any co-pays that you're going to have, whether there are changes to that. Are you going to pay more for your physicians? Are you going to pay more when you go to the hospitals? Are you going to pay more for prescription drugs? All of those things are in that document. Now, most people will get that document and either will put it aside or put it with the extra pile of mails that you get from different carriers, not knowing that this is an important document that you should be reading because it's going to pretty much affect your bottom line next year, how much you're going to pay at the end of the day. So I highly encourage, as part of your preparing and getting ready for the annual enrollment period, I will highly encourage you to find that document so that and read it and make sure you understand it, to make sure that the things that you're paying for this year, you know how they're going to impact, how they're going to be impacted next year.
So the you are referencing us to a document.
Right.
It's
It's
called
called a
an annual.
notice of change. It has a big name on top of it, your annual notice of change. And it just outlines all of the changes that's going to happen the following year.
Okay, and this is it only for people that are enrolled in the Part C
Part C,
pathway?
Part C pathway, and prescription drug pathway. So, and if you don't have Part C, chances are
Okay,
you're on Medicare. So, anyway, so you're going to have a Part D drug plan as a standalone. So, anything that you would have Part C or a Part D drug plan, you're going to get that notice of change.
okay, okay. And when do people
Get it?
usually when do people get
All
it?
right. By law, Medicare guidance, um, it must be delivered to the individual by October 1st. So most
Okay,
individuals, most carriers actually send that out the last couple of weeks in September. So
okay.
by October 1st, those should be delivered in everyone's mailboxes.
Okay, okay, okay. So if you got it earlier and you probably put it aside, now you have to go figure it out and try to find. Can people just in case people forgot
Right.
it or saw it and didn't see the need for
Mhm.
it, can you request a new one? Is it possible to
Absolutely.
request a
And
new
the
one?
changes are going to be laid out on every insurance company's website as well in their documents, right? For every plan when you go in, like right now. So like the last few days, since October 1st, we've been comparing plans for 2023 and 2024. So you could
Okay.
see plan, same name, what those changes are, right? But one of the important things, and we're seeing a lot of that happens this year as well, is that that annual notice of change also lets you know if your plan is going to be around, right? So if
Huh.
you're in a plan or you're with an insurance company and they're going away for 2024, that notice of change is going to tell you that your plan has been eliminated or that your carrier is going to stop all operations at the end of the year and you need a plan. You're going to need to select a new plan. So a lot of that
All right.
is discussed. It's a highly important document that gets thrown away or gets put with the other bills.
Okay. So Ruthland, and yeah, I would say this because it helps deepen the impression. So if a
Mm-hmm.
company stop offering a specific plan coverage that someone chose, maybe
Right.
I chose last year, and then they are changing because maybe out of something they are changing that specific plan
Mm-hmm.
package that I chose, then I will get notification. It's pretty much getting a phone notification that not phone
Yeah. No,
notification, Medicare. No,
you're not
all
going to
right,
be called.
it's not gonna be around, right? So then if it's not gonna be around and I don't look at it and recognize that maybe the company is still going to be
Right.
around, but the plan,
Right.
specific plan I chose last year or this
Hmm.
year, is not going to be around. This is where I should look at this, understand this, and then to be able to make the changes that I need in
Correct,
terms of that.
correct. And that is
Right.
why we
Okay.
say to everyone, it has been our message, is that everyone should take a look at these documents, and
Hmm.
reevaluate or evaluate their coverage to make sure that the plan is still going to satisfy their needs the next year, right? It's just
Okay. Okay.
practice to review every year because there are so much changes that happens. Sometimes they're subtle. Other times, it's significant, but you still want to know what those changes are and how you could be impacted.
Okay, okay. And sometimes feel like it might be it might be not necessarily change from the plant's perspective, but something may have changed for
Correct.
you,
Correct.
right? And therefore you want to also look at, and I think that is probably that's the next slide, like benefits adjustment for you. Like
Correct. Hmm.
how do people use that also during this period to make those kind of decisions?
Right. And this is when you do it. This is when you do it. So if there is anything you get from that, how do you make the most of your Medicare plans? And I will take a step back because one of the things that I hear is that I would hear people say, "Oh, I don't like Medicare Advantage. They suck. I don't like these type of plans. You're better off with a supplement." And then I go outside in the community and I'm talking to consumers, and not everyone could afford a Medicare supplement, right? So you have to be able to find a plan. There is something for everyone. Some people are going to have preferences when it comes to Medicare supplements. Others are going to love the Medicare Advantage because of all the extra benefits that they get lumped into one plan. And
Hmm.
remember, we spoke about some of that week one,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So in making those decisions, there are certain things that come into play that you need to think about. Um, and one of that is to know that plans update their benefits every year,
Every year.
every single year. There are minor changes that's happening to every plan, whether it's a Medicare Advantage plan or whether it's a Part D drug plan. And one of the biggies that happen is the copays. What you're going to pay out of pocket when you go to the pharmacy. Is that going to change? And we know for a fact that this year, the Medicare Part D, um, true out of pocket cost, that has went up, right? So we know that. And there are changes with how Part D is structured. So some people will pay a little bit more. Some people who has diabetes and on insulin products, that $35 is going to look great compared to what they were paying in the past. So that is so know your copays. Um, your copays is the dollar amount that you pay: $50, $20, $30.
Which
Plans
go ahead.
plans
Finish
are
up.
also changing their cost sharing. And I wanted to explain cost sharing because cost sharing is a percentage of the cost: 20%, 30%, 40%. Those are the money that you pay, but 40% of what?
Yeah.
Right? And I always say that to my clients. I love copays because I know and I could budget
Exactly.
dollars, right? It's harder for me to budget a
Insurance.
percentage because I don't know what that percentage
Oh,
is taken out of what.
yeah.
But plans do have cost sharing, um, and you have to know on the type of plan that you have what you're going to be paying percentage wise, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a Part D plan or a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay. So we will take some time next week, which
Yeah,
we'll get there in terms of the terminologies and
correct,
the
correct.
costs associated with it. But what this is emphasizing is the need to know that things
Changing.
change.
Things are
Things
changing.
are changing either
Things are
from
changing.
monetary standpoint, either from cost sharing standpoint, either new benefits, like benefits that may probably have dropped, and now a new
Correct,
one has
right?
come in that things are changing,
And
right?
let me give you an example in new benefits. We're
Go
seeing a
ahead.
lot of plans, especially on the Medicare Advantage plans, offering dental and vision at higher limits, right? So before, when they started, if you have a job based plan, and probably about 1,500 used to be the standard dental limit that most job-based dental plans would offer. On the Medicare Advantage plans, we're seeing $4,000 in total coverage thing. So, and many of the services that you get has no copays, no other cost sharing, uh, cost sharing, no nothing. Let's just put it like that, right? So you have no out of pocket costs on some services, not on all, but that's helpful for someone on a limited budget, as is the case for many people with Medicare, to know that you do have these options.
Okay, thank you. And I want to go back to the audience again. I know there are several people watching from several places. If you have any question, please feel free to send your question in the chat, either on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or YouTube, or on our Taiwan channel, wherever you're watching us from, and we will be able to get access to these questions and also discuss it. So I want to also emphasize that as we go through this session. So Ruthlyn, like, if I was to in this annual enrollment period, if I was to be very savvy in navigating this, right? wh- What should I be expecting? I know the article talks about commercials and solicitation and things like that.
Right,
What
right,
should, apart from those things, or even with those things, right?
right.
How do I better, as a consumer, better respond to them, and to be able to also recognize what is in the market, what is out there, to take advantage of as possible?
Okay. So, know, first of all, that with Medicare advertising, there are lots of sticks, I would call it, treats being put towards you, right? You as being the consumer.
The
So,
consumer.
what you need to do as a consumer is take a step back, first of all, from all of those advertising, and think about, what exactly do you need?
Okay.
How do you want Medicare to work for you? And what I tell my customers to do is, I say, create, look at your bills. Start with your bills that you've had this past year. Did you have a hospitalization? Did they check you in and then you were there for an inpatient stay of 3 to 5 days? How much did you pay for that stay? Did you get billed? Did you not get billed? Right? When did something change in your health? Do you need surgery? Those are all questions. Surgical procedures, sometimes we're planning those out months in advance. So you're going to know, for most people, not all, unless you have an emergency, you would know that, okay, maybe next year I might need to do my shoulder, my knees, my hips, whatever you're doing surgically. So you're planning for those. You want to take that into consideration now as you're making plans for next year, because you want to make sure that as you do these procedures, you want to know your out of pocket costs, right?
Mhm.
So I say, take stock of what you have now and use that as the basis. First step is using that as the basis to figure out how much you paid this year and potentially how much you could pay next year.
Huh.
That's number one, right? So we go there. Number two is, for Medicare Advantage and even your Part D plans to work, but for Medicare Advantage in particular, you need to select a plan where your doctor is in network. We were talking about higher cost sharing and cost sharing being a percentage. But on most of the plans with Medicare Advantage, if your doctors are out of network, you're paying a cost sharing. You're paying a percentage, a co-insurance, um, 30, 40, 50% sometimes, right? So you need to make sure that the vast majority of doctors, specialists that you're seeing, even the hospitals that you're going to for some of these procedures, you need to make sure that they're in network. Now, I will tell you that hospitalizations, when it occurs in a situation where it's an emergency, those will always be treated as in network. But some people, and many people, as I alluded to, are doing surgical procedures where it's not an emergency, it's a planned procedure. If that hospital is considered out of network for that carrier, you could be left holding the bag, so to speak. So you want to make sure that you are checking your doctors, your facilities, making sure. And where do you check them? You could check them on your own if you want on Medicare.gov, or if you take an agent or an agency that's in the Medicare space and you work with them, we're all able to run those information in our system and help you to figure out which doctors are in network and which ones are not at no cost to you whatsoever. So take us all up on that
And
option. All
that
right, take the agents that's in your neighborhood up on that option, because it's at no cost to you to help you figure out your doctors. The other piece that you're going to want to look at is medications. For many people, you might go see your PCP, but it's the medication that's the biggest cost to you. So you want to make sure that the medications that you're taking, that those are on formulary for that plan. And as we know with Part D, and I think, Prince, we're going to spend a session on just Part D and the four tiers of Part D because it's the most confusing
oh,
part of Medicare, is understanding how, folks go through the Part D coverage phases. But knowing, if you know enough about Part D, you know that if you're taking a medication and it's not on the formulary, you're going to pay so much more than if it is. So, with Medicare plans, one of the things that you'll find is that one or two drugs in the class. So, if you're taking a certain type of statin, or if you're taking a certain type of high blood pressure meds, there are at least one of those medications that's covered on a lower tier. It might not be the best drug for you, per se, that maybe doesn't work with you and your body. But at least know there is one drug that's on the lower tier in that class, and then there the others gonna be on different tiers. So you want to know if you could take another medication. Ask your doctor if they could recommend that for you, so you could fill that at the pharmacy. It doesn't always have to be that you're taking the brand name drug, because the brand name drugs are going to cost you more. So but that's a conversation for you and your doctor, to at least know that here are all the drugs that my carrier has on its formulary. Which ones should we talk? And I work with clients, and they're working with their doctors, and they'll ask me, the doctors will ask, hey, could you have her check, um, and they'll give me a list of medication. I have no problem checking the 10 medications for my clients that the doctor is trying to look at, to try and figure out which one is they should prescribe that's more affordable for their clients. We do that all the time for our clients. It's because we know that people are making those financial decisions, and the medication costs are going to be huge. All right. So the first is reviewing your annual notice of change.
I was gonna go.
Second is checking. Well, the second is really getting all of your bills together. The third is checking your doctors. The fourth is checking your medications. I also want to add in here too, with medications, the pharmacies that you're using, because some pharmacies are considered preferred pharmacies, others are not preferred pharmacies. Your local mom and pop pharmacies, and I do work a lot with local pharmacies more so than the larger chains. Oftentimes they're not in network, but we have to have, but I highly encourage your community pharmacies, right? These are small business owners. So work with your pharmacy and let them know that this is not your, I'm not seeing your pharmacy on the formulary or as a preferred pharmacy, and they'll work something out with you. So don't just necessarily think that you cannot work with your pharmacy. You could work with your pharmacist, and together, both you and the pharmacist get to a place where things are not so overwhelming cost wise for you as an individual.
So, Ruthlin, one has to do. How much time do we have between this enrollment period?
How much time? Not a lot,
Yeah,
right? Several weeks.
we have several weeks to work through it, but I think um, the purpose of these things is these annual comes in and
Right,
goes and comes in and goes and come in and go. So once you prepare,
right.
then you are
It
almost
gets
always
easier.
ready every year because you have been doing a lot of the legwork during the year.
Yep,
And this time might not be late, but you get the knowledge now. You are able to prepare and put some
right.
of them in practice this time and prepare for next year because these annual enrollment periods come in and go every year so far as you are in Medicare, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same
So it's a
time every year.
and so it's a good skill to have. And if you are not in
Right.
Medicare yet, guess what? This is a great skill to have. So that you will be able to prepare to help your friends, to help your neighbors, to help your family, your parents,
Hmm.
aunties and uncles that are getting in there. Especially as immigrants here, you may have a lot of your parents getting there or things like that. So this is I think is a great skill to have in order to navigate them. And so far as you do the legwork now, like it
Right.
better helps you as the year goes along and you are taking notes
Right.
and
And
getting.
I don't want people to believe that they have to do this alone, Prince.
Okay, that's awesome.
Because there a lot of folks will say, "Oh, I don't have anyone to help me." There are tons of people to help you.
Hmm,
And like I always like to preach is speak with a licensed professional, right?
hmm.
Speak with someone who has went through the training of becoming certified to assist individuals with Medicare. There are lots of others like myself. Some are independent brokers, some run agencies like ours. But there are lots of resources out there if you know where to go and if you know where to who to turn to provide the right information, to provide the advice and guidance. And it's not just there to just sell you and disappear.
Yeah. And Ruthlyn, you touched on some other things in terms of things that you guys or the agents, the licensed professionals are there to do for free, right? So
Mhm.
to walk people through. Do you
Right.
mind saying that, repeating those again so that
Okay.
our audience can have
I and I think that folks sometimes think, okay, I can't work with, could they be will they steer me in the right direction? As a licensed professional, we have to I would say kind of like a fiduciary in that we have to do what's right in the best interest of
of,
the
of,
customer,
of
right?
the customer?
First and foremost. What where I think sometimes concerns come in is that yes, we do accept commissions for selling a plan, or offering a plan that someone purchased through us, right? So we get commission from the insurance carriers, so because we're under contract with them. But I am an independent agent. My agency is independent, and we accept commissions because if we don't accept commissions, then we're going to have to charge you, the
Charge
consumer,
the
right? um, and, not everyone could afford the rates, and a lot of people will probably not get the right advice and guidance, and will just continue to struggle. So we accept commissions, yes, but it means that we do not charge you as a consumer, and we provide advice and guidance. We work from where we sit here. We work with multiple carriers.
Mhm.
We have over 100 plans now, not all Medicare plans, but we have over 100 different plans that we're reviewing and analyzing. We know we've been trained on all of the plans, and it's some plans will tell our customers, based on your healthcare issues and what's going on, I don't think you should be in this plan, right?
Hmm.
Because our job is to help you make informed decisions, not make it for you, but make informed decisions as your advisor and guiding you towards the plans that work. So when people are complaining that, oh, I hate Medicare, I this, and I don't like this plan and this carrier, they're basing it on their experience. But probably one of the things that was never done, and what I've come to realize, is that when I sit and I talk to someone who come into me and they've been complaining, a lot of times it's that the doctors were never checked,
Hmm.
the pharmacies were never checked, the medications were never checked against the carrier, and they're just in the wrong plan for them, right? It's not that the carrier is bad. They're in that they have that problem because some of those due diligence hadn't happened.
Uh,
So
uh,
that's why it's so important that folks are really checking against the plan to make sure that what they need is what they're going to get.
uh, huh. And I know I asked for the list, and then I picked up on going on it. Like, what can people come to check with an agency or a licensed professional for
Right.
free? Like, what can
Okay.
people check with
Well,
you all?
practically everything is free with an agency, right? But when folks come to us and we're dealing with Medicare, oftentimes they have their letters, and most of the times they don't. But we also, as their agents, get a copy of the letters.
Which
Um,
letters are you talking about?
the same annual notice of change,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
The
I know what my
letter.
customers get,
Okay.
right? And so what folks could come to check. So when we're doing a benefits review for someone, what we're looking at in our benefits review, we're asking them for, give us a list of your doctors, give
Okay.
us a list of your medications. And when we're looking at the medications, we're looking at your dosage, we're looking at your frequency, and oftentimes included in that, we want to know the pharmacy that you fill your medications at, right? Then we're able to put all of that in our system and run it against the different carriers that we do carry, um, and try to figure out a pattern. What's happening here? How much is this person going to pay? And we could do multi carrier comparison, but how much is this person going to pay for this medication against this plan, plan A, plan B, or plan C? How many of their doctors are in network,
Uh,
right? Because if you have a plan and none of your doctors that you go see, including your primary care physician, is not a network, but
yeah.
it's great for drug coverage, you got a problem there still, right?
Yeah.
Because now the doctor that's going to prescribe the medication is going to be out of network. So you're going to pay more on doctors and less on medication. So it has to work. There has to be some balance. Now it is overwhelming because there are lots of plans. So we drill it down for the individual, and oftentimes we're having the individual to kind of make the decision between two or three plans. I found that that's a sweet spot for most of my clients. Anything else, and they're lost in that process.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we help drill it down.
Thank you so much for that. It's just question. Is there any way that they come in, do all the work? Is there an obligation that they have to take the two or three options? Can they say, "Hey, I don't want these. I just want
Absolutely.
two or three."
Yeah, no, there is never any obligation to choose a plan with us, right? We do multiple reviews. It doesn't mean that that person is going to make the decision to sign up with us for a plan. We hope they will, right? And we hope that we've shown them enough value in what we could do and how we could help them kind of be as an advisor, a key advisor to them as they're making healthcare decisions, because insurance is such an important part of that. But but there's never any obligation to purchase. At the end of the day, you might just find that the plan you're on is a better choice.
Yeah.
um, and if it is, and if I'm looking at someone, because you're going to tell me as well what plan you're on right now, right?
Yeah.
And I do that oftentimes. I'm telling the individual, stay with your plan,
Uh,
right? I think this is the better plan for you. I do that a lot. I'm not in the business of just trying to push someone onto any plan just to make a sale. That's not my business model. My business model is more advice and guidance. So we're reviewing, and many times we're telling the individual, I could offer you a plan, but based on what you have, I think what you have is a better deal for you. So continue with that unless something drastic happens health wise or with the plan, then we could help you find something else.
okay. And when you're, and I want to emphasize, when you're talking about plan, it can be like a part C that has the part C, and I want to use the pathway, uh,
Right. So okay, I
Medicare
see where
Advantage
you're going. I
pathway,
see where you're going. Okay.
or
Let me
it could be like a part D supplement to the pathway, the
okay.
traditional pathway, right? You are talking.
So I say plan and I don't say insurance company, because one insurance company could have many different plans,
Mhm.
right? So company A, let's say insurance company A might have 4 or 5 different type of Medicare Advantage plans. So it's a Part C plan, right? So there's a Medicare Advantage company A, right? But they have, you know, different types of plans with different names
Yeah.
on it, right? So I say plan because when we're looking at it from that perspective, you might be in plan A, and I do that a lot with individuals. You might be an insurance company A, that have multiple plans, but you happen to be in the wrong plan for that insurance company,
Company.
right? So you don't necessarily have to change companies.
Companies.
You could
Okay.
just change plans within that company. In fact, yesterday I was with a new customer, and she said, "Oh, I don't like the insurance company that I have because the plan is costing me too much." And I reviewed the plan with her, and I showed her that she didn't have to change companies. She was just in the wrong plan with that
Within that
particular
company.
company.
Hmm.
So that's why we use the term plans, because plans could mean switching to a different company plan, but it could also mean just switching to a different type of plan that's
Within the
offered by that same company.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much. This is amazing to learn this from you, Ruthlyn. Um, let's get a bit into in terms of how do I um, engage with either professionals or if I'm coming to you, right? If someone
Mm-hmm.
is coming to you, what are some things you mentioned about the medication, the physician,
Mm-hmm.
the bring your plan, your current plan that your the plan that you
Right.
currently in. Did I miss anything? I think
No, those were the biggies. I think if you do those 4 things, if you know where your coverage is in terms of like navigating AEP, if you know what the changes are going to be for this year, then you know what you're benchmarking against for next year,
hmm
right? And so you know that you're going to start with your costs, because you don't necessarily want to pay more next year. I highly doubt anyone wants to shell any more money out of their pockets. You're going to check your doctors, going to check your medications. I can't reiterate it enough. Check your pharmacies. If at least you do the 3 things: doctors, medication, pharmacies, and you understand who's in network, who's out of network, and how much your medications are going to cost you, you've done a lot of the work already,
and
right?
also knowing the potential changes in your health, right?
And
Like
the potential
knowing your
changes in your health.
needs,
Important.
yeah, knowing your need
Right.
first to better align that. All right.
Exactly.
As people deal with professionals, either from the agency perspective or from
Hmm.
even solicitation commercials and things like that, how do how what is best to
Right.
do in terms of I get a phone call or I
Hmm.
got an email or I got like what is the best way to, as a consumer to better get um better respond
Okay.
in those areas.
Um, so first of all, when it comes to Medicare, and this only applies to Medicare, not any other type of insurance, life, whatever else you're buying, right? When it comes to Medicare, um, as an agency, as a broker, as someone who's certified, we need your permission to contact you. So that is the first thing we have to get, is your permission to contact you. We're not allowed to go door knocking, going to your office, showing up at your offices without having that permission. We cannot show up at your house. And many of our agencies and agents, they sell different things, right? They do different type of insurance where they could canvass a neighborhood, show up by your door, leave a flyer. We're not allowed to do that when it comes to Medicare. We're allowed to send out mailers, and you will get that. And the phone calls I keep telling folks that they're getting is because they've opted into something, and it baffles folks' mind that they're getting 10, 15 calls from Medicare, and I'll talk about the Medicare just now, but you're getting 10, 15 calls every day from someone trying to sell you something as it pertains to Medicare. And you're telling me that you did not sign up, but that's because you probably didn't remember that you signed up for something. And now your name is on a list that you've given permission. So be leery, uh, take a conservative approach when it comes to giving out your name to everybody. um, Take a conservative approach with that. If you put your name on a do not call registry, but then you went outside and you filled out a flyer, or you filled out some information and gave your thing, so but you're not ready to take those phone calls, you're gonna get phone calls, right? Because with Medicare, there is always the permission to contact. Then, once we're having a conversation about enrollment, before we start that conversation, there are a couple of things that needs to happen, and we've had some new changes for this year. So if someone calls us on the phone, you will notice that our phone lines are now being recorded, and that's because the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid,
Services.
CMS,
Yeah.
Medicaid services, now require that all phone calls are recorded when it's in conversation about enrollment.
Uh,
So this year, and it started last year, they've cleaned up some of the processes about which calls need to be recorded versus not. But from an agency standpoint, it's really hard to try and say, okay, well, we're going to do it in this way. So we just record all of the calls coming in through our agency. So if you do not want to be recorded, we can't do the enrollment. We can't have that conversation. We need to have a different option, which means that we might have to stop and set up some time to do an in person appointment, right? Something, because if I'm face to face with you, I do not have to record, but it's the phone calls coming in. And that's all driven by the fact that so many people were getting phone calls. And there were so many fraudulent activities and certain things that individuals were saying. And now everyone has to go into compliance in having those calls recorded, so that if we're ever audited, or if the government decides to audit us, then at least they know that we're having compliant conversations with the consumer. So
uh,
that's a biggie for this year, is the call recording, because of some of the changes that happened from last year to this year.
okay.
Then the other big piece that's happening this year, when it comes to Medicare and it comes to the enrollment, there is always something when you're dealing with a professional that's called a scope of appointment. It's basically for Medicare, it says that you've given us permission to discuss with you certain things: Medicare Advantage plan, Part D drug plans, Medicare supplement. It's on the form. Although you don't need it for a Medicare supplement, is there as well, and some ancillary health products, dental, vision, those kind of things. But you're saying you're signing off that you've given us permission And we, as the agents, sign off as well, so that we could have a compliant conversation about the cost of the different plans. So when we're doing the plan reviews, so to speak, that we were talking about, Prince,
Yes.
and we're doing the comparisons because we're showing you rates, because we're showing you networks, and we're going to talk about network. The scope of appointment must be signed. And now the biggest change for this year is that it has to be 48 hours.
Okay.
So between the appointment and the scope, when it's signed, is now 48 hours unless someone walks into our office,
Okay.
give or take, right? And that's a little, change because, a lot of folks will call and, agents are used to, okay, Mrs. Jones call and she wants to know about Medicare, and you jump on the phone, run the information in the system, and you take her information. Now there is a wait that must
Okay.
happen, a pause, so to speak. You could take the information from from the consumer, but then you have to send out that scope of appointment, get it signed,
Mhm.
and then have a compliant conversation 2-3 days later.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. I know we have only 4 minutes left. This time just runs very quickly.
I thought today was going to be a short one.
I think our first day was the shortest. Last week it just vanished, and I was like, "Uh oh, we are almost there." And now we have only 4 minutes left. But I want to take the last few minutes for us to reiterate on some of the things that we have touched on, to help our audience better grasp some of the things, and then share some more information if people
Right.
need some assistance and want to reach out. So we learned about the different enrollment periods last week, and this week we are specifically taking the annual enrollment period because it is the time that we are in. And we have learned that it started from October 15th. That was on Sunday.
October 15th,
And
yesterday.
it's running all the way till, I'm trying to go back till December 7th, and it's annual, right?
Um,
October 15th, and it's time for people who already have Medicare, right?
yes.
So if you're new to Medicare, this is it will be your initial enrollment period. Check out last week, but it's your time for you to evaluate your plan. Either you're in the pathway, traditional pathway, or part C pathway, Medicare Advantage pathway, for you to look at it, evaluate your plan, look within and without, and double check which one based on your need, your health need, your health changes, your anticipated things that are happening in your health. Look at your providers, and I'm saying all these out of memory because I just learned from Ruthlin. Your providers, your medications, and what was the last one?
Your
And your
pharmacies.
pharmacy, your pharmacy. So your providers, your pharmacy, and your, oh, why am I blank?
Your, your medications, your providers, your medications, your pharmacies.
Okay, your pharmacies, your medications. Yeah. So look at them, look at yourself, your need as as a person, and then to be able to align. There are several professionals that are there that are not charging, to look at these things for us, or for people, or for beneficiaries that are can look at these things and give some guidance on that. Free guidance, not paid, and if you don't, there's no obligation that you can go. But ultimately you want to align your upcoming need with your coverage. You can stay in the same plan, you
Right.
can go through different plan, you can change things, or you can stay. Ultimately, the purpose of the annual enrollment period is give you opportunity for change if needs be,
Right.
and that is what
Correct.
we are covered today. I want to go quickly to, I know it's almost time, so I want to quickly to the contacts. But if you want to reach out to Ruthlin, um, over here, or myself, in a link in the chat that you can use that link to book an appointment with Ruthlin, and book appointment with us and go through some of these things for free. Ruthlin's website and company is Health with Solutions, and they are problem solvers in health insurance to make your life easier. And you can always reach out to support at healthwithsolutions.com, or you can reach out to the Hills Academy at info at thehillsacademy.com. Ruthland, I know there's a number. If you don't mind, you have a number to share that people.
Yes, it is 516-223-0704. But Prince, folks could reach
Do
out
the
to us
appointment.
on
Huh?
LinkedIn, um, Facebook. You go to Health with Solutions, or even directly to me as well, if you could find me on Facebook. Go to the company's
Hmm.
Facebook page and just send us a
Yes.
private message. And we get it and we respond very
Okay.
quickly. Within that 24-hour
Yeah.
period, we'll respond and set up an appointment, and you could have a conversation with myself or someone else
Okay,
on the team.
awesome, awesome. And also, you please subscribe, share, the content on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere. The goal is to help democratize much of the knowledge for people, immigrants like you and I, and for other
Right.
either minorities, and help with democratizing some of these information to get the much needed help as we can. And Ruthlin, thank you again. We will catch you next week. We'll be discussing, I think we'll be going a bit on the cost and some of the other things, but please, we're going to be here the same time next week at 6 p.m. Eastern time on the Hughes Academy site and our Taibo channel and the Health West channels that you are watching right now. And we appreciate you for being here, and we will catch you same time next week. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Ruthlin, for sharing your knowledge with us. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye then.